Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and in this episode of Major League Baseball Picks, on the prices to make for good bets using the predictive mathematical model I have built, known as Sideline, for games scheduled to be played on Friday, July 21st, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember, if you're interested in projections of picks on every single game, sign up on Dub Club. That link's in the show description. Cost under $1 per day. You'll get money lines, run lines, first fives, totals, all the numbers needed for A-grade picks, and, of course, exclusive access to our Discord chat. Lots of fun over there. Check it out if you have not yet. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game. It does not try to forecast it to a T, as that'd be a foolish and impossible goal. There are no right sides or wrong sides, whether there are prices or any side should be played, whether using my model or someone else's. This sort of probabilistic thinking is key to growing your bankroll instead of draining it. There are ups and downs, but the sort of thinking it will balance out in the long run, it's just hard to foresee before it happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so the long-run profitability has been proven. Winning every single day is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, I say that every day, and this week has just not been good. I feel like big about transparency here has not gone well. This week, it's still, the rest of the season was good, but it's just, you're going to have bad weeks. And you know that, and I say that, and that doesn't really make it any easier to stomach for me personally. I don't know about you. It still makes it tough.
No, I'm fine.
You're fine.
I'm fine with it. And mostly
is this the building's burning down around you? I'm fine.
No, this is really I'm fine because, and for those of y'all that have been with us for a while now, I mean, we've talked about this many times on the show, but the past couple of baseball seasons prior to this one was so much more variable. That was really up and down, where after like a month of just couldn't lose and then couldn't win, it was like, man, this is really tiresome. Like, I would do anything just to go 500. And so at least I haven't got that feeling of whiplash yet this season. So as bad as this week is gone, if we turn around next week, if we turn around in 2 weeks, that's fine. If we're still doing this in 6 weeks, come talk to me.
Exactly. It's a great point. In the last couple of seasons there's been these stretches like that where it's been long, where we just could not lose, which was fun. And then stretches where I'm looking at it, I'm like, what are we doing wrong? And it's it makes it a little harder to really trust. I'm a big trust the process guy, but when you have those long stretches, it makes it tougher. It's like we're always talking about, though, there's, we're analyzing prices. And of course, we took the Rays last night at a little bit bigger of a price and thought there was a little bit of value on that pick. Turned out Kyle Gibson, pitched really well against the Rays. That was a little surprising. And it's like I'm always saying, whether using my model or someone else's, we're analyzing the prices there. We thought minus 175 was a decent look. That turned out not to work. And if you used a different model, you might have said it was a great look. You might have said it was a bad look, right? That's what we're talking about here on those prices, trying to be sensitive to that. I feel like when we were talking about this before we came on the show, Mondays have just been terrible this year, and it's partially explainable by smaller slates. And because you made the point, if three things go wrong on a short slate, it kind of can ruin the whole day. If three things go wrong, on a Friday, it may not be a blip in the road. You may not even have money on those games, that sort of thing. And that's kind of, Thursdays have been really good to us, but yesterday definitely was a case of the Mondays where it was just that, a couple teams just didn't show up, and that ruined the whole day and made try to make a little bit back at night, but it didn't really matter with the teams that we had during the day that just decided to completely no show. Cousin Jared, again, I want to talk about what went, transparent, what went well yesterday. We did get the Astros last night. That was good. I feel like we had some right reads on a couple things. Talk about all the strikeouts in the Twins Mariners, of course. And we definitely saw that. Am I forgetting anything about yesterday to mention?
No, I mean, to your point, it wasn't a good day. So after the afternoon games yesterday, I was kind of like, I'm kind of done. And I didn't pay too much attention last night. So
we did at least, I talked about in the Discord chat, the Cardinals, that Matz has been underrated, that he's been better than people realize, that Stroman's been a little bit overrated. The Cardinals got an easy win. And of course, we gave out the over in that pick, which hit by like the 5th inning or 6th inning or something like that. And it could have gone even over sooner. There were tons of runners on early on that didn't come through. So, I mean, there was something that went well yesterday, at least with that Cardinals-Cubs game, at least,
And again, the benefits of being on Discord, signing up at Dub Club and being a member, we nailed the Braves Diamondbacks game. So we didn't talk about it on the show, but we nailed it on Discord. So yeah, funny how that kind of works out.
We did. Cousin Jared, you teased that yesterday. You said you had a total you liked. You dropped it in the Discord right after the show aired that you liked the first 5 under in Atlanta, Arizona. Said it's a crazy weather spot, but these pitchers are good enough that they can keep it together. They kind of did fall apart a little bit at the end, but they dominated early on.
But fortunately, not till the 6th.
Not till the 6th. You got the first 5 under with ease. And then I was like, and I gave out the over. And somehow we got both of them with relative ease, which was surprising. So, I mean, there were some good things yesterday again. And that's what we're always talking about. We're going to cover 3 games, going to deep dive into them a little bit more. But the benefit of, again, sign up on Dub Club. That link's in the show description. Get information on all of them. And we can have whatever discussions you want, ask whatever questions you want on that Discord, and we'll dive a little deeper. Cousin Jared, I feel like this happened during football season. You're gonna, if you don't watch out, you're gonna get people clamoring, pestering you for daily totals again.
And who knows? I might be amenable to that if we absolutely must. So if you want that information, pester me. Tag me specifically. I only get alerts on Discord if you actually tag me. So please tag me if you would like that information.
There you go. All right. Well, before we get to today's slate, some quick reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the MLB, college basketball, college football, or coming this fall, NFL content that this channel provides. You can see how I'm scaling picks in the Google Sheet with the show descriptions. FYI, and I mentioned this to our Dub Clubbers, the totals have gone well, so I'm going to shift up the scaling just a tiny bit to make those a higher percentage of our bankroll. So just a slight tweak with that I've been kind of thinking about to try to, again, make sure, always thinking about how we can make sure that our scaling is good, but that's also a personal choice. And you kind of, you always got to do what works for you. So, I'm kind of doing a slight tweak with that on my end. But with that, with the advice I give, whether you're taking it literally or suggestions you want to talk about in the Discord, with scaling with picks, with all of it, take what you like and leave the rest. Do have an afternoon game here, Cardinals and Cubs. No, not a lot of lines yet on that one because of Wrigley. Potentially we'll have a pick on that. Check Discord, check Dub Club, sign up. Again, link in the show description for that. Otherwise, we're going to get to the night games here. 8:05 p.m. Eastern, Dodgers at the Rangers. Cousin Jared, I mentioned this to you last night. We were talking about totals. All the runs happened on whatever it was, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yesterday, a bunch of unders. I think only 2 of the games went over. Looks like a cold front kind of coming through the country here. So something to keep an eye on if you're a totals better. There's not a lot of places in the country where it's hot, except for, of course, the state that I have got a 2-week reprieve from, and where you're at in Texas. It'll still be hotter than blazes in Texas. 100 degrees at first pitch on this one, so the roof will be closed. But in most places around the country where there's baseball happening, a little bit chillier for a Friday in July than what you expected. Of course, again, roof closed in Arlington. Tony Gonsolin versus Andrew Heaney. According to the model, the Rangers win this 55% of the time. B grade price would be -114. A grade price -106. This one kind of oscillated in that upper -100s, low -110s last night. We're going with the Rangers at -111. It's a B grade, again, depending on the price you can get. It's really bounced around in this ballpark, through last night, through this morning. Cousin Jared, Andrew Heaney, the better pitcher in this matchup, despite the worse ERA. The underlying metrics much better, projects about a half a run better. Otherwise, these two teams are pretty similar offensively. I give the Rangers a little bit of an edge because the Dodgers are a little bit left-handed heavy. So facing a guy like Heaney kind of dings the Dodgers a little bit. Rangers slight edge offensively. Dodgers probably a slight edge on the bullpen. Of course, that Dodgers bullpen's just been so overworked. Been talking about that a lot this season. Cousin Jared, Rangers – -111. Tell us more.
Yeah, so a lot of times I like to come on the show and give facts, and sometimes I just am just stubborn and like to stick with things. And if I had a nickel for every time last season we talked about how overrated Tony Gonsolin was,
Mm,
I would have been a very wealthy man. But the thing was, is it never really worked for us.
yeah,
We kept fading him, kept fading him, kept fading him, and somehow we just kept winning games, kept winning games, kept winning games. That's not the case this year. I mean, he's playing for the Dodgers, so like clearly he still gets an adequate number of wins because the Dodgers
yeah.
are going to put up a lot of runs. But as reflected by your rating and sideline, he's had a much worse season than what he had last year. And so for me, this is one of those things where I just feel like Gonsolin still is over-respected. Felt like he was over-respected last year. Feel like he's over-respected this year. And so when I get the opportunity, it's a combination of fading Gonsolin plus being able to back the Rangers, which have been one of the best teams in baseball
Yeah.
this season. And I just like it's just a good feeling when I get to back one of the best teams in baseball. So again, a lot of times I like to come on here and put on stats and facts and whatnot. And this is just like I'm glad that our thoughts on Gonsolin finally be seeming to be manifesting themselves a little bit more than what they were last season.
Yeah, absolutely right. He kind of just kept pulling the rabbit out of the hat last year. This year, that's really come back to earth here. ERA approaching 4, underlying metrics against suggested should be near 5. I mean, he's
Yeah.
I think people still think he's decent thinking about last year, but I really am all over fading him, which takes us to an early player prop of the day here. Tony Gonsolin. We're going to go under 3.5 strikeouts. Cousin Jared, I think the reason I like this is isn't even about really the fade of Gonsolin as much as it is the fact that right now you can get this at plus 132 on FanDuel. Yesterday's prop, very nice, exactly. Yesterday's prop, and I mentioned this, I told it to the Discord early on. I said, hey, here's where the odds are really good. I like this one, get it now. And of course, we got that dreaded closing line value on it yesterday. And it didn't hit, but, the theory is right in the long run that's supposed to work, and closing line value is its own rabbit hole. And I don't want to get into that discussion right now,
Yeah.
but I think the same thing here. This is a pretty good price here, something that I think is pretty 50-50. You can see he's hit this 50% of the time on the season, and so this is just more about the pure math of a 50-50 situation at plus 132 makes for a smart long-term play. I don't think this is going to hang around plus 130s all day long. I could be wrong, you never really know, but my hunch is this is going to trend much more towards even money. That's where it's at a couple of other sports books, and that makes a lot more sense for this. You can see there he's had some really nice starts, and he still does he's not a bad pitcher. Rangers are pretty middle of the pack with regards to strikeout, but this Rangers offense is good. Gonsolin could get run early.
Yeah,
it's very possible. And or they can just put the ball in play. As you've seen again, Gonsolin's had 3 or less half the time. It's a pretty 50-50 situation. If it hits, the plus 132 is where the value's at, in my opinion. Cousin Jared, is there any extra just you want to just fade Gonsolin that adds to the value of this, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, and you mentioned exactly what I was thinking. There is a non-zero chance that Gonsolin goes like 3 2/3 in this game, and so that would make this a really difficult number to get to if the Rangers come out hot on offense. So that was my biggest thing. Is it's possible this is a very short outing for him.
And you can see that here, of course, early on in the season, he had a couple of shorter outings, but 3 2/3 right here earlier this month against the Royals. A lot of times where he's just making it 5. If he's going, 4 or 5, that's going to make it a little bit tougher for him. And the probability that he only gets, 4 or 5 against a team like the Rangers is a little bit higher. You never really know. Again, Gibson yesterday pitched really well against a really good Rays offense. The caveat there, and this is the big discussion. I know many of you are thinking it. You may comment about it. The answer to hot cold offenses is not, there isn't one, right? You'd never really know when a team is struggling, if that's real, if it's random variability, that sort of thing. The Rays offense hasn't been as good of late. How much of early on was a little bit of a fluke, how much of this is a fluke, who really knows, right? Maybe that played into it a little bit, allowed Gibson to go deeper and look better. This Rangers offense has had no such issues. They continue to roll. And unfortunately, Cousin Jared, for you and I as Astros fans.
Yeah, that's okay. We don't have to talk about that.
We don't talk about that. Remember, you can sign up at Outlier.bet/professor for a free 7-day trial to browse, analyze, and execute picks. They integrate seamlessly with your favorite domestic sports book, allowing you to shop for the best prices. You can see all the information. I think a little later in the day, they'll have their exact edge as to what they think, how much of your bankroll you should put on these props. If you're playing the player props, I think it's a necessary tool in your toolkit, the things that they do. You can check that out at Outlier.bet/professor. And if you aren't already playing daily fantasy, Thrive Fantasy is another partner of Picture the Professor. You can pick an entire lineup of players and enter in a contest, or just choose between 2 and 5 props that you like. And if they win, you win. New users that use the promo code SIDES or the sign up link in the show description get a 100% instant first deposit match up to $250. Who does not like free money? Cousin Jared, I feel like you like free money, right?
It's usually the best kind. It's my favorite kind of money, if I'm being honest.
Favorite kind of money, absolutely. All right, moving on. Got a couple late games here for you. 9:38 p.m. Eastern, Pirates at the Angels. Slightly warmer day, one of the few warmer spots in the country here. Wind blowing out should be a little bit of a boost to the runs here, and that's going to be an important fact as we talk about how to play this game later on. So keep that in mind. Not like, not Wrigley Field 90 degrees wind blowing out day, but a slight boost to the runs according to the model will boost the runs by about 6%. Johan Oviedo and Shohei Ohtani, a pair of O pitchers on the mound in the Big A, right? Fun with vowels. Oviedo looked a little bit better this last start out. Model thinks he's pretty average, but he's definitely a guy that has some potential. Ohtani, obviously, the best human on the planet at the game of baseball, and what he does is incredible. I still stand by, we've been saying it all year, early on in the season, fading Ohtani, wasn't as profitable, but it wasn't because of Ohtani. It was because the team just kind of bailed him out at the end. But backing Ohtani just has not been a smart move. In my opinion, he's been really overpriced. He's a good pitcher. He's not, a Cy Young pitcher. And I think that's the things that people are pricing him like he is. 3.50 ERA, underlying metrics say that's pretty spot on, right? And it's not like last year where, he had a long stretch where his ERA was in the mid twos, and that was pretty real. He's just not, he's done better as a hitter this year. And that's, of course, the weird thing about hitting and pitching both is that he's going to have years where he's just better at one than the other. This year, incredible with the bat. Last year was good with the bat, but was more incredible pitching. This year, it's kind of flipped. Good pitching, incredible with the bat. And so I think people are still looking at last year. Obviously, the bullpen for the Angels behind him is a concern. They've been winning a lot of high-scoring games when he pitches, but I don't think that's a formula that can continue. Because, Jared, we're going to be on the Pirates here at plus 174. It's a B-grade pick. Plus 175 or better is the requirement for a B grade as of the morning update. So this was kind of a B minus pick. Right now you can get plus 170. So anywhere in this mid plus 170s gets you that B grade. A grade would be plus 190. You might look at this and think about playing it safer on the run line. The issue is with it being a slightly higher scoring game. I don't think there's really value in the run line. I'm not going to play the over. If I had to, though, I'd be looking at the over. I'm not going to play it because if Oviedo, can kind of replicate what he did last start, that over's kind of dead in the water. But with the weather and that park being, more hitter friendly than most of the AL West parks, at least. If we have a few more runs than expected, that run line value just isn't quite there. So I'm not going to be touching the plus 1.5. Model says that should be priced at minus 120. That's what it is at minus 120. So if you could get closer to even money in the minus 10 somethings, now we're talking about decent run line value, but I don't think the value's there on the run line for right now. First 5 value would be there, but of course, first 5 full game, you kind of just got to pick something and go with it for the most part. And I don't mind a full game here getting to fade the Angels bullpen. Cousin Jared, Pirates, big odds, always fun to take an underdog, right?
Yeah. And, earlier this season, I was kind of I was on record saying that the Pirates were the second best team in baseball. Look, guys, they're not the second best team in baseball anymore. Much time has passed since then. But again,
we knew it was coming.
yeah, of course we knew it was coming. And I mean, like I said yesterday, I like to be consistent. What have we been consistent about the past couple of years is generally it's a good idea to fade Ohtani. He is, number one, he is overpriced. Number two, anytime that you can fade the Angels bullpen, which is like seemingly every single year, the Angels just have lots of problems with their bullpen, death taxes and the Angels bullpen being bad. And so like you said, I like taking the money line here with the Pirates just because again, Ohtani being overpriced and keeping the Angels bullpen in the game as a factor in the game, man, that's just like a big thing for me. The Angels bullpen, I mean, like the last I saw, like over the past month or so, they've been like 1.5 worse than any other team in baseball, baseball's bullpen. And so that's just like, that's notable. Like it's not a small sample size either. I mean, 30, a month isn't huge, but it's also not small. And so, I mean, that's just pretty impressive that they could be that much worse than everybody else.
Yeah, and I tweeted about that as well, that the Angels bullpen started off the season really well, but after about a month or so, I remember talking on one of the shows here, and I said, hey, y'all, the Angels bullpen, like, I know that they've done well. It ain't going to keep up. Like, I still think they're very bad. I still project them to be like the second or third worst bullpen in baseball. Of course, the A's projected to be the worst. And sure enough, the Angels bullpen has, as of the last month or so, and I think even maybe more than that, maybe more like the last couple of months, really has come back to earth. Terrible numbers on the season, just like we expected, despite that kind of fluky start. They're almost 2 standard deviations worse than league average. Pirates, on the other hand, have a pretty average bullpen across baseball. So, it's one of those things you just got to hold on for dear life. Put up a couple on Ohtani, Oviedo, limit the damage, keep it close, and then you got a shot to win it here late. Again, run line might be a smarter play with the run line situation. I feel like I'm preaching the choir here potentially, and I say it every day, but whether it's a +1, +1.5 money line, you got to try to figure out a system that works for you, or else you go crazy. Whatever rules that you have for that, or you'll think about it way too much, and like I said, make yourself go mad. Who knows? Maybe the Pirates lose by 1. Maybe the run line smart pick. Maybe they pull the upset. You never really know. I think they should be able to hang in. And there's value here again, fading Ohtani, even though again it hasn't worked great this year. When you look at how it's played out, it's not like it hasn't worked great because Ohtani's been dominating us. It's been other teams just, giving it away late, that sort of thing, or he's happened to pitch and the bullpen's done a little bit better for him, but nobody else, that sort of thing. It's been pretty fluky in my opinion, and I still think he's pretty overvalued. Which takes us to the late game. I'm going to jump on the other direction of this, taking a big favorite here in the Astros at the A's. Framber Valdez for the Astros versus J.P. Sears for the A's, a pair of lefties. Framber leaving his previous start with a little bit of a knee tweak, better than an arm tweak, of course, and it sounds like it was just kind of like you and I do, Cousin Jared, on a daily basis, probably, tweak your knee, and then, you notice it for the next day, and then all of a sudden you forget it ever happened. It sounds like it was one of those. He was at the end of his outing anyway, and so it was just kind of precautionary. Sounds like he's good to go. Potentially Cy Young Award winner, at this point would have to be one of the top contenders for that, every bit as good as that 2.76 ERA. JP Sears, on the other hand, an ERA at 4, but underlying metrics suggest it should be somewhere almost a run higher than that. This is a really big mismatch at starting pitcher. It's a mismatch everywhere. The closest it's not a mismatch is offensively. The Astros still hobbled with the bats, but again, facing a lefty is at least a little bit better. They're pretty right-handed heavy. Been talking about that a lot. So at least they're better.
Kyle Tucker can't hit lefties though. So
and Kyle Tucker, who can hit lefties. So this team projects and does pretty well against lefties. The A's, of course, not that far behind on the bats. Their bats are decent enough, but pitching wise, this is a pretty big mismatch. And I guess you got the same question, right? How do you want to play this? Again, I talked about this. I have my rules. I'm going to play the -1. Maybe at 204, maybe we should just take the full run line anyway. I don't really know. Again, just trying to come up with a system that works where there's value. There's decent value in the Astros, whether it's money line or run line, however you want to play this. It was kind of a B+ pick. Last night we locked it in. I think after last night, just updating the metrics and the rosters and everything like that, I think now it may be shifting into the A grade territory here. Again, at money line, A grade price would be -252 or better. Current price I'm seeing is -250. That's a pretty steep price, but it's good value because, again, we're talking about there's value on dogs and favorites based off long run probabilities here. I think this is a pretty smart price. Run line, similar situation. A grade to be -134. Current price -140. So again, A or B type play, you kind of split it, do one or the other. It's really personal preference. Astros really flirting with this one last night, needing a home run in the 9th inning to get the win by 2. And that's, of course, the fear in a park like Oakland, being so pitcher friendly on these night games, so much foul territory. Ball doesn't carry great there at night. And you could end up in a lower scoring game. And, model projects 7.6 runs for a reason there. It's a lower scoring game, makes it harder to win by more than one. So, whether you want to play the -1, we've saved ourselves 50 cents on the odds, or if you want to go with the run line, the Astros are the way to look. You just got to figure out how aggressive you want to be. Cousin Jared, I'm curious your take. I asked Jake this earlier, and you're curious your take. You like the idea of splitting, taking the -1, or you just should say the money line's too much for you? You're taking the run line. How are you playing this?
I would like potentially look at like a first five
Mm.
play for this as well. Also, I want to say like Fromber tweaked his knee playing Major League Baseball. I tweaked my knee getting out of bed in the morning. So I mean that is also,
I,
besides the fact it
I
just goes away, that is
I
also a
tweaked my
difference.
knee. I don't even know what I did. I just noticed it last night. I was like, "Oh, my knee kind of hurts," and I'm like, "I haven't
Yeah.
like done anything all day. Like, how did I even do this?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
That feels
yeah,
about right.
yeah.
Okay, so the starting pitcher mismatch here. I like to talk about this. It's almost 3 entire standard deviations. So you gave me a
It's a
quiz
lot.
yesterday. I don't think that I know the answer to this one off the top of my head, but like 3 standard deviations, is that like, I don't know, like 80% like
It
difference?
it depends on where you are in the bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're
Right.
in the mid, if it's 3 standard deviations apart, 1.5 from the mean in both directions, it's a little bit bulkier than if
Mhm.
it is shifted like that. So yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
It's
it
not
depends on where you're on the
80%,
curve.
but
Yeah,
it's
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 a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah, it is the point. It's a lot. So that is one of the largest starting pitching mismatches that I can remember this
Yeah.
season, and that's mostly because Fromber is just so good. JP Sears being about average. So I'm all over the Astros here, just because you don't get very many mismatches just like this. We kind of mentioned this last night when we were texting about it. I don't think they're going to throw Fromber out there if there's any chance of like a serious injury or he's not 100%. They obviously can't risk losing him, and
Yeah.
it's the A's. So like if there's anybody you're like, hey, throw in somebody else, give him an extra day of rest if you need. It's against the A's, and so
Find
the fact that
Octavia
he's
Hotel, Edwin
yeah,
Jackson,
sure, yeah, anybody like that, I'm sure they're still ready to go.
probably.
And so I think that he's healthy if he's out there today, and I just want to capitalize on a big mismatch like that. Like not only Fromber being so good, but like the A's being like historically one of the worst teams that we've seen in quite a while. I want to be able to fade them against the best team, best pitcher in baseball, and that's just kind of the whole analysis for me.
Yeah, and the A's have been playing better,
Yeah,
better from what was so terrible, right? And the
yeah.
A's, I think, are a fascinating discussion, right? We talked about it early in the season. You talked about all off season. Hey, we're going to have to back the A's here, and we start off the season, and I was like, no, we're not going to back the A's. They're terrible, and the books don't realize it. Sure enough,
Yeah.
we faded them a ton and made a ton of money fading them because the
Yeah.
books just didn't realize how bad they were. And then the A's started playing a little bit better, and the books kind of overreacted a little bit. We started backing the A's a little bit as they started playing a little bit better. Again, better relatively speaking, right? And people make a big deal about if you bet the A's every game the last month, how much money you make. Yeah, they've been playing a little bit better, but the baseline was so low
Yeah.
from
It
where it
was
was.
it was bad.
There's
It was
they're
bad.
still not a good team, and for the most part, when they've played better, it's been against weaker pitchers because their offense isn't terrible, right? But I mean,
Hmm.
you saw it last night against a guy like JP France. They only were able to put up one run,
Yeah.
and Framber Valdez being a better pitcher, the A's again not as bad as that early stretch where they were like 3-30 or whatever it was. That was
Yeah.
historically bad. But it's just, again, going up a guy like Fromber is just a different story. The model hasn't really liked backing the Astros as of late. Their bullpen rating seems to get worse by the day from one of the best bullpens in baseball. Now it's less than a full standard deviation better than average. They've been a little bit overworked too, like the Dodgers. The offense now, again, the overall offensive rating for the Astros with the current lineup well below average, not against the lefties, but again, overall below average. The model's been very comfortable fading the Astros at times. And lo and behold, we come to this A series. Backed them last night, got the win. Going to back them again tonight. Again, we've been on a roller coaster with the A's here. I feel like between fading, backing, fading, it's mostly worked, but everyone's had a hard time wrapping their brain around just where this team is. As we always talk about with college football, these outlier teams at the very tail ends
Hmm.
of the distribution can sometimes be the toughest for the sports books. I feel like the A's have been that. Because Jared, you mentioned the first five. FYI, if you're playing the run line, Astros first five model says they win the first five, not pushes removed, win, not actually by one or more 60% of the time, and that the price for the run line should be minus 150, minus 140 gets you to a B, minus 130 gets you to an A. So that's what you're looking for if you're playing that first five run line market. Since Cousin Jared, since you mentioned that, I figured I would give that to the people. And again, remember on Dub Club, we give all that information in a daily cheat sheet, all the prices you need for all that with the run lines, reverse run lines, first five, all sorts of goodies. You get that every day over at Dub Club. So if that's something you hear, all the weather information too. I feel like I forgot to
Yeah.
mention this. We're talking
Yeah.
about the weather a lot. People like the weather. All that weather info is in there as well. Not just the both the percent that the weather is going to affect the game, and on top of that, just the actual kind of report where the wind is blowing, chances of rain, temperature, that sort of stuff. All of that's in the cheat sheet. So much great information there over on Dub Club. Cousin Jared, any parting words before we sign off for the weekend?
So yesterday I hadn't looked it up specifically, and I told you it was about 35 days until the start of college football. I apologize. It was 37. So I was off by an entire 2 days. Yeah. So today, as of today, it is
36.
actually 36 days until the start of college football season. It can't get here soon enough.
There's a narrative here, right? Yesterday was 35 days, 36. We're going the wrong direction, is what it kind of feels like. Is what I'm hearing from you.
Well, that should make Miss Professor happy then, based on the conversation we had yesterday.
She doesn't watch the show though, unfortunately, so she's missing out on all this one.
That feels about right.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy the sports betting content provided on this channel. Jumped right into your feed. We'll be back on Monday morning with more baseball betting content. But until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.